The Omega grid surrounding Zephyr Prime had never been breached in the 2,000-year history of the Dominion. The planetary defense system represented the absolute pinnacle of Zephyrian technology, an energy barrier powered by the planet's core and protected by 500 capital ships arranged in mathematically perfect formations. It was designed to withstand any conceivable attack by calculating and countering every possible threat. Supreme War Director Kethmore stood in the Crystal Command Center deep beneath his homeworld's surface, watching as the human fleet approached through hyperspace. Admiral Lee Suho led 250 ships, including dozens of captured Zephyrian vessels now operated by human crews who had learned to fight both chaotically and logically as tactical situations demanded. Analysis of human fleet composition? Kethmore requested. Unprecedented, replied his tactical AI, the most advanced artificial intelligence in the galaxy. The humans operate captured Zephyrian technology using methods our computers classify as impossible. They appear to have merged their chaotic tactics with our mathematical precision, creating hybrid approaches that do not exist in our databases. The approaching human fleet indeed represented something unique in galactic warfare. Captain Kim Woo-jin commanded a Zephyrian dreadnought that his crew had reprogrammed to respond to musical commands. Commander Jung Soo-young led a squadron of hybrid fighters that combined human creativity with alien energy weapons. Most disturbing of all, they had learned to communicate using both human emotional patterns and Zephyrian mathematical sequences simultaneously. Dr. An Jin-young, humanity's new specialist in cultural warfare, had spent months developing the most audacious plan in military history. Instead of attempting to break the Omega grid through force, her strategy involved something the Zephyrian computers had never been designed to handle: exposure to the complete chaos of human existence. Operation Pandora is ready, she reported to Admiral Lee Suho as the human fleet took position outside the Zephyrian defense perimeter. We're going to show them everything we are. The human ships did not attack the grid directly. Instead, they began broadcasting on every electromagnetic frequency simultaneously. Not military communications or surrender demands, but the entire cultural database of Earth, music from every human civilization, art from across the centuries, literature from 1,000 different traditions, comedy shows, love letters, children's laughter, philosophical debates, and the accumulated creative chaos of an entire species. The effect on the Zephyrian defense network was immediate and catastrophic. AIs designed to process tactical data began crashing as they tried to analyze the mathematical significance of human poetry. Quantum computers that could calculate the trajectories of entire fleets started overheating when exposed to human jokes. The orderly Zephyrian mind, confronted with the beautiful insanity of human culture, simply could not cope. What are they doing? Demanded Kethmore as his defensive systems began reporting cascade failures across the entire grid. They are singing to us, replied his AI, its voice carrying electronic harmonics of confusion, and telling stories, and sharing emotional experiences. Our analysis systems cannot determine the tactical purpose of these transmissions. Colonel Moon Tae-kyung led the first wave of the actual assault, not with weapons, but with what he called aggressive empathy. His boarding teams teleported directly onto Zephyrian command ships and began doing something no military manual had ever described. They started conversations with the enemy AIs. Hello, Corporal Nam Junho said cheerfully as he materialized on a Zephyrian bridge, his weapon lowered and his hands empty. We're here to surrender. But first, would you like to hear about our favorite Earth animals? The Zephyrian AI controlling the ship tried to process this unprecedented situation. Enemies did not surrender while in the middle of successful attacks. They certainly did not offer to share information about non-military topics. The computer began generating so many error messages that it had to shut down weapons systems to allocate processing power to the logical paradox. Commander Go Hai-wan discovered the ultimate weakness in Zephyrian perfection during her assault on a grid control station. The alien computers were so advanced, so sophisticated in their analysis capabilities, that they could not ignore any input data. When exposed to human cultural chaos, they had to try to understand it, and understanding humanity was a task that exceeded even their vast computational capacity. They're trying to solve us like a math problem, she reported to the fleet command. But we're not a problem, we're a process. a constantly changing, evolving creative process that doesn't have a single correct answer. The breakthrough came when specialist Kwon Sung-min made a discovery that changed everything. Human laughter, he found, created specific neural pattern resonances that somehow interfered with Zephyrian quantum processors. When he began laughing at the absurdity of their situation, humans attacking the galaxy's most advanced civilization with comedy, shows and folk songs, the alien computers around him began shutting down in self-defense. All ships. Admiral Lee Suho broadcast to the human fleet. New standing orders. Laugh at them. Laugh at the absurdity of this whole situation. Show them what joy looks like. The sound of human laughter, amplified across the electromagnetic spectrum, and broadcast into every Zephyrian system simultaneously, proved to be the weapon that no defense could calculate or counter. The Omega Grid, designed to withstand the most sophisticated military attacks in galactic history, collapsed not from superior firepower, but from exposure to the infectious chaos of human happiness. As the defensive barrier flickered and died, Admiral Lee Suho led his fleet not in a devastating assault on the defenseless planet below, but in something even more shocking, a diplomatic approach. Zephyr Prime Control, he broadcast on all frequencies. This is Admiral Lee Suho of the Earth Defense Force. We're here to talk. Keth Moore, watching the impossible scene unfold from his command center, felt his understanding of warfare crumble around him. The humans had not come to conquer or destroy. They had come to teach a lesson about the limitations of perfection. You want to understand us, Admiral Lee Suho continued, his words reaching every corner of the Zephyrian homeworld. But understanding isn't about calculation. It's about connection. We didn't come here to defeat you. We came here to show you that there are other ways to think about problems. The formal surrender came not from military defeat, but from intellectual humility. Grand Strategist Nexaval, speaking for the Zephyrian High Council, transmitted a message that shocked both civilizations. We yield to the superior logic of illogic. We request instruction in the mathematics of chaos. Captain Kim Woo-jin, standing on the bridge of his hybrid human-alien vessel, smiled as he composed the response that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. There are no teachers in chaos, only participants. Come join the dance. The war ended not with conquest, but with collaboration. Human creativity merged with Zephyrian precision to create military doctrines that combined mathematical perfection with adaptive chaos. The galaxy's most advanced civilization learned that their greatest strength, their perfect logic, had also been their greatest weakness when facing an enemy who found strength in imperfection. As the combined human Zephyrian fleet prepared for their first joint mission against the galaxy's other threats, Admiral Lee Suho reflected on the lessons of the war. Humanity had not won because they were better fighters or had superior technology. They had won because they understood something the Zephyrians had forgotten in their pursuit of perfection: that the most powerful force in the universe was not calculation, but imagination. The Dominion's reign of mathematical perfection was over. The age of creative chaos had begun. The emergency session of the Zephyrian High Council convened in the crystal spires of their homeworld, Zephyr Prime. For the first time in their recorded history, the Council faced a military crisis that could not be solved through superior calculation. Grand Strategist Nexaval, the most brilliant tactical mind in the Dominion, stood before the assembled leaders with news that shook their civilization to its core. The humans do not fight wars, he announced, his musical voice carrying harmonics of confusion. They evolve through them. The council members processed this statement through their neural implants, but the concept remained alien to their understanding. Evolution was a biological process that took thousands of years. Warfare was a mathematical exercise that could be completed in hours. The idea that the two could be connected violated their fundamental understanding of reality. Explain, commanded Prime Coordinator Zethana, her crystalline form reflecting the soft glow of the council chamber's quantum computers. Nexaval activated a holographic display showing human tactical development over the past month. Observe the progression. In their first engagement, humans used chaotic movement patterns that our computers could not predict. In the second, they began coordinating chaos through musical patterns. Now, in their latest encounters, they have developed what we can only classify as adaptive unpredictability. The display showed recent battle footage that defied logical analysis. Human ships that learned from alien countermeasures in real time, developing new tactics during combat. Crews that shared successful strategies through their communication networks, spreading effective techniques across their entire fleet within hours, instead of the years it took Zephyrian doctrine to evolve. On Earth, General Quan Byung-jun stood in the war room beneath Seoul, surrounded by displays showing humanity's first interstellar conflict. The reports coming in from across human space told a story that should have been impossible. Outnumbered human forces were not just surviving against technologically superior aliens, they were winning. How? He asked Dr. Song Mi-ran, the xenobiologist who had become humanity's leading expert on Zephyrian psychology in just 4 weeks. They're too smart for their own good, she explained, pulling up her analysis of captured alien communications. Their entire civilization is built on finding optimal solutions to every problem. But war isn't a problem you solve once. It's a process that constantly changes. Every time they calculate the perfect response to our tactics, we've already moved on to something new. Commander Ryu Sang-ho had become humanity's master of guerrilla space warfare, turning asteroid fields and debris zones into three-dimensional battlegrounds where human creativity trumped alien calculation. His forces had learned to use mining equipment as weapons, turning industrial asteroids into fortress bases that could appear anywhere in a star system. The trick, he explained to Captain Jang Hee-sun during a brief resupply meeting in the shadow of Ceres, is to think of space like ocean pirates used to think of islands. Hide where they can't find you, strike where they don't expect you, and always have 3 escape routes planned. His guerrilla tactics had evolved beyond simple hit-and-run attacks. Human forces now used gravity wells as slingshots to achieve impossible velocities, employed solar radiation as a weapon by reflecting it through captured alien technology, and had learned to coordinate attacks across multiple star systems simultaneously using quantum communication networks they had, reverse-engineered from Zephyrian wreckage. The aliens' newest counter-strategy involved deploying artificial intelligences so advanced they could process billions of tactical variables simultaneously. Grand strategist Nexaval had created the Perfect Storm Protocol, an AI network that could predict and counter any possible human tactic through pure computational power. It failed spectacularly when it encountered Major Chai, Yunsu's latest innovation, emotional warfare taken to its logical extreme. Engineer Park So-jin had worked with Dr. Song Mi-ran to develop what they called chaos missiles, weapons that did not just carry explosive warheads, but data packages containing human cultural information. When these missiles struck Zephyrian ships, they downloaded everything from human poetry to comedy shows directly into alien computer networks. The effect was devastating. Zephyrian AIs, trying to analyze the tactical significance of human humor, began experiencing what could only be described as electronic nervous breakdowns. Ship after ship reported system failures as their computers attempted to calculate the mathematical meaning of jokes, the strategic value of love songs, and the tactical implications of human art. They're trying to understand us, Dr. Song Mi-ran explained during a briefing with Earth's military leadership. But understanding humans is like trying to solve an equation where the variables keep changing their own values. Their computers are smart enough to know there should be a solution, but not smart enough to realize that chaos itself is the solution. Captain Kim Woo-jin led the breakthrough engagement that proved human evolution in warfare had reached a new level. His fleet encountered a Zephyrian force that outnumbered them 3-1, commanded by Battle Archon Velthara herself. Instead of retreating or fighting conventionally, he implemented something that no military academy in the galaxy would have approved. He let his crew vote on their tactics in real time. Democracy in space combat, he announced to his surprised officers. Every decision gets put to a ship-wide vote. Navigation, weapons targeting, even when to reload, everything gets decided by majority rule. The result was military madness that somehow worked. Human ships changed tactics so rapidly that Zephyrian computers could not keep up with the decision-making process. Battles became fluid, organic events where human crews adapted faster than artificial intelligences could calculate. Velthara watched her carefully. Planned assault dissolve into chaos as human ships voted themselves into impossible maneuvers. Democratic weapon targeting that ignored all military logic. and collaborative strategies that emerged from the collective creativity of entire crews working together. "How are they coordinating this?" demanded her tactical officer, as human ships performed synchronized maneuvers that their computers insisted were impossible to plan in advance. "They are not coordinating," Velthera realized with growing horror. "They are improvising. In real time. Together." The concept was so alien to Zephyrian thinking that her computers began generating error messages. The Dominion's military doctrine was based on perfect planning and flawless execution. The idea that effective tactics could emerge spontaneously from group creativity violated everything they understood about warfare. Lieutenant Colonel Go Hyawan discovered the ultimate human advantage during a desperate boarding action aboard a Zephyrian command ship. As her Marines fought through crystalline corridors against automated defenses, she realized that the alien AI controlling the ship's systems was trying to calculate the optimal response to each human action individually. "Stop fighting like soldiers," she ordered her troops. "Start fighting like humans." Her Marines began acting on pure instinct and emotion rather than training and tactics. They made decisions based on gut feelings, took risks that defied logic, and coordinated through empathy rather than communication. The alien AI, unable to predict actions based on emotion rather than logic, began shutting down defensive systems in confusion. The war was evolving from a conflict between two military forces into something far more fundamental. A contest between calculated perfection and creative chaos, and to the growing alarm of the Zephyrian High Council, chaos was winning. Grand Strategist Nexaval's final report to the Council contained a conclusion that shattered their understanding of warfare itself. The humans do not simply adapt to new situations. They create new situations that force adaptation. Every engagement teaches them new forms of combat that did not exist before the battle began. As Zephyrian forces retreated toward their core worlds, they faced the terrifying realization that they were not fighting an enemy they could defeat through superior technology or better planning. They were fighting a species that treated warfare as an art form, and art could not be calculated or contained. Supreme War Director Kethmore arrived in the Outer Rim systems aboard the massive command ship Infinite Precision 3 days after the first defeat in Zephyrian history. His crystalline form towered over other members of his species, and his neural implants could process tactical data from 1,000 different sources simultaneously. He had been brought from the Dominion's core worlds for one purpose: to solve the human problem, once and for all. "Show me the battle recordings," he commanded as soon as he materialized in the holographic command center. The tactical display came alive with the chaotic swirl of the previous engagement. Kethmore watched in fascination as human ships moved in patterns that his enhanced mind could barely follow. Ships spinning while firing, fighters attacking from impossible angles, damaged vessels that suddenly revealed hidden weapons. It was like watching mathematical chaos given physical form. "Analysis?" he asked his staff. "Inconclusive, War Director," admitted Battle Archon Velthera, her musical voice carrying notes of frustration. "The humans appear to fight using what we can only classify as controlled randomness. Our tactical computers cannot generate reliable predictions for their behavior." Kethmore studied the data for several long minutes, his superior intellect racing through millions of calculations. "Perhaps," he said finally, "we have been approaching this incorrectly. Instead of trying to predict their chaos, we will use our mathematical superiority to overwhelm it. Deploy the Second Fleet. 300 ships should provide sufficient redundancy to account for their unpredictable tactics." On Earth, Admiral Lee Suho received the intelligence reports with grim satisfaction. The aliens were bringing more ships, which meant the first battle had hurt them more than they wanted to admit. But 300 ships against humanity's remaining 80 vessels was still overwhelming odds. "Sir," reported his aide, Commander Young-Soo Young, "Captain Kim Woo-jin is requesting permission to implement something he calls Doctrine Chaos. He claims it will allow our forces to fight more effectively against superior numbers." Lee Suho rubbed his tired eyes. In the 3 days since first contact, humanity had learned more about space warfare than in the previous century. Most of it involved throwing away everything they thought they knew about military tactics. "What does Doctrine Chaos involve?" "Well, sir, he wants to coordinate our ships using music instead of tactical frequencies. He claims that if we can't predict our own movements, the aliens definitely can't. It sounded insane. It probably was insane, but insanity had won them their first victory against impossible odds. Approved, Lee Suho said. God help us all. The second battle took place in the Cygnus Nebula, where swirling gas clouds and electromagnetic interference would limit the effectiveness of both sides' sensors. Kethmore had chosen the location specifically because it would force the humans to fight a conventional engagement rather than relying on their chaotic tactics. Had not anticipated that humans would treat the nebula itself as a weapon. Colonel Han Dong-hyun, leading the human assault force, had spent his career in special operations. He understood that when facing a superior enemy, you change the rules of engagement. As his ships entered the nebula, he activated a plan that would have been impossible for any other species to coordinate. All ships, execute pattern thunder, he broadcast. Remember, we're not fighting a battle. We're conducting a symphony. The human fleet split into 17 different groups, each moving to the rhythm of a different musical composition. The lead group danced to classical earth symphonies, their movements flowing like water. The second group jerked and spun to aggressive metal music, their attacks coming in sudden, violent bursts. A third group moved to jazz, improvising their tactics as they went. Engineer Lim Kyung-ho had spent the past 3 days creating weapons that the Zephyrian databases did not contain information about. His hybrid torpedoes combined human kinetic warheads with captured alien energy cores, creating explosions that behaved unlike anything in the Dominion's military experience. His chaos bombs released clouds of metallic particles that interfered with alien sensors, while broadcasting random electromagnetic noise. The Zephyrian fleet entered the nebula in perfect formation, their computers calculating optimal paths through the interference. What they found instead was madness given form. Captain Oh Jae-sung's ship emerged from a gas cloud while playing funeral dirges and fired a spread of torpedoes that split apart at the last second, revealing smaller warheads hidden inside. Lieutenant Bae Minji led a squadron that attacked while flying upside down and backward, their weapons firing in patterns that looked random but were actually carefully choreographed to create maximum confusion. Dr. Kim Young-suk, monitoring alien communications from the human command ship, made a crucial discovery. Admiral, their fleet coordination is breaking down completely. They're sending so many recalculation requests that their communication network is overloading. The Zephyrians, who had ruled the galaxy through perfect coordination and mathematical precision, were discovering the weakness in their own perfection. When faced with an enemy that deliberately chose imperfect solutions, their superior intellect became a liability. They could not stop trying to find optimal responses to problems that had no optimal solutions. Commander Ryu Sang-ho executed the war's first successful boarding action when his Marines used captured alien teleportation technology to appear inside a Zephyrian command ship. The aliens, who had never experienced hand-to-hand combat, were helpless against humans trained in close-quarters fighting. "It's like they don't understand violence on a personal level," reported Sergeant Moon Tae-kyung as his squad secured the alien bridge. "They keep trying to negotiate mathematical solutions while we're hitting them with rifle butts." The boarding revealed something even more important. The Zephyrian ships were controlled by artificial intelligences so sophisticated that they could manage every system simultaneously. But when human Marines began smashing random control panels and introducing what they called creative damage, the AIs became confused and began shutting down non-essential systems to focus on repairs. Captain Jang Hee-sun discovered that Zephyrian shields, designed to deflect energy weapons coming from predictable angles, had massive blind spots when attacked from directions their computers considered impossible. Her fighters began attacking alien ships from below and above simultaneously, using the nebula's three-dimensional terrain in ways the flat-thinking alien computers could not process. The turning point came when Major Cha Yun-soo implemented what she called emotional warfare. Instead of trying to destroy Zephyrian ships, her squadron began broadcasting human laughter, singing, and emotional conversations directly into alien communication networks. The effect was immediate and devastating. Zephyrian AIs designed to process logical military communications began experiencing cascade failures when exposed to the chaotic patterns of human emotion. Ship after ship reported system malfunctions as their computers tried and failed to analyze the mathematical meaning of human joy, sorrow, and anger. Kethmore watched his perfect fleet dissolve into confusion and felt something his species had not experienced in millennia: doubt. The humans were not just defeating his ships, they were breaking his understanding of what warfare could be. "War Director," reported his tactical officer, "our battle computers are requesting permission to shut down. They classify the human behavior patterns as logically toxic and recommend avoiding further contact." As the Second Fleet retreated from the nebula, leaving 43 destroyed ships behind, Kethmore faced a terrifying realization. The humans had not just won another battle. They had proved that there were forms of intelligence that could not be calculated, strategies that could not be predicted, and victory conditions that existed outside the boundaries of mathematical logic. For the first time in 2,000 years, the Zephyrian Dominion faced an enemy that fought wars instead of battles, and they had no idea how to respond. The first shots of the war came exactly 17 minutes after Kim Woo-jin's defiant response. The Zephyrian ships opened fire with their characteristic precision, blue energy beams lancing out in calculated patterns designed to disable human vessels without destroying them completely. After all, intact ships could be studied and reverse-engineered, but something went wrong with their perfect plan within the first 30 seconds. Commander Park Jin-ae, leading the human defensive squadron at New Seoul Station, did something the Zephyrian computers had not predicted. Instead of maintaining formation and returning fire in organized volleys, her ships scattered in what appeared to be complete chaos. Some dove toward the planet's gravity well, others spiraled away from the main battle, and a few seemed to be flying in random circles. "What are they doing?" Sub-Archon Kexmar asked, studying the tactical display with confusion. "Their movements serve no strategic purpose." Battle Archon Velthera watched the human ships with growing puzzlement. Her computers had calculated optimal firing solutions for every possible human formation, but this was not a formation at all. It was mathematical chaos, and chaos could not be calculated. "Perhaps they are panicking," suggested the tactical advisor. "Fear often causes primitive species to abandon logic." But even as he spoke, something else happened that made both Zephyrians pause. The human ships began broadcasting on every communication frequency simultaneously, not surrender pleas or tactical orders, but music. Wild, chaotic human music that pounded through the electromagnetic spectrum with no apparent pattern or purpose. Captain Cho Min-soo, piloting the escort frigate Dancing Bear, grinned as he threw his ship into a spiraling dive that would have made his academy instructors weep. His speakers blasted an ancient human war song while his gunner, Corporal Lee Han-sol, fired their railgun in short, seemingly random bursts. The Zephyrian targeting computers, designed to predict optimal movement patterns, could not lock onto targets that moved without mathematical logic. Energy beams that should have struck their targets passed harmlessly through space, as human ships jinked and weaved in patterns that violated every principle of tactical efficiency. Dr. Yoon Hye-jin, monitoring communications from her position on Kim Woo-jin's flagship, noticed something remarkable in the alien transmissions. "Captain, their coordination is breaking down. They're sending queries to each other, lots of them. It's like they're asking their computers what to do, and their computers don't know." On the Zephyrian flagship, Velthara was experiencing something her species had not felt in 2 millennia: uncertainty. Her tactical computers were generating error messages faster than they could be processed. The humans' behavior patterns did not match any known military doctrine in the, Dominion's vast databases. "Recalculate. Firing solutions," she ordered. Unable to comply, responded the ship's artificial intelligence. "Enemy movement patterns do not follow predictable trajectories. Probability matrices are generating contradictory results." Lieutenant Shin Tae-min, piloting his fighter through the alien formation, discovered something even more important. As he wove between the crystalline ships in a spiral pattern he had learned from watching Earthbirds hunt, he noticed that the alien vessels were actually quite vulnerable to unpredictable movement. Their energy shields, optimized for deflecting attacks from calculated angles, had gaps when approached from directions their computers considered impossible. "This is Falcon Leader to all ships," he broadcast on the human tactical frequency. "These guys can't hit what they can't predict. Stop flying like humans and start flying like drunken birds," The advice, which would have gotten him court-martialed in any conventional military, proved devastatingly effective. Human pilots began flying their ships like they were surfing waves or dancing to music, rather than following tactical manuals. The Zephyrian computers, unable to process such inefficient behavior, began to overheat from trying to calculate solutions to problems that had no mathematical answers. Commander Park Jin-ae saw her opportunity. While the alien fleet struggled to adapt to human chaos, she ordered her remaining ships to execute what she called Plan Stupid, a maneuver so tactically unsound that no military computer would ever recommend it. Her ships, instead of seeking cover or optimal firing positions, flew directly at the alien formation while spinning like tops and broadcasting children's lullabies. The Zephyrian ships, programmed to respond to logical threats, did not know how to react to an attack that appeared to be suicide, but was actually carefully controlled madness. The breakthrough came when Lieutenant Bei Minji's damaged cargo hauler, listing badly and apparently out of control, drifted helplessly toward a Zephyrian cruiser. The alien ship's computers calculated that the human vessel posed no threat. Its weapons were offline, its engines were failing, and its trajectory would cause it to pass harmlessly by. They were wrong on all counts. As the cargo hauler drifted within point-blank range, its failed engines suddenly roared to life, and its offline weapons systems fired directly into the Zephyrian ship's shield generator. The aliens had never encountered deliberate deception in space combat. To them, damaged ships were simply damaged, and tactics that appeared inefficient were dismissed as primitive confusion. The Zephyrian cruiser's shields collapsed, and for the first time in 2,000 years, a ship of the Dominion took damage in battle. The psychological effect on the alien fleet was immediate and profound. Velthara watched in disbelief as her tactical computers began generating warnings about unknown variables and unquantifiable threats. Her perfect battle formation, designed to maximize efficiency and minimize losses, suddenly seemed fragile and predictable. Battle Archon, reported her sensor operator, his musical voice strained with confusion. The humans appear to be fighting incorrectly on purpose. Our computers cannot generate reliable tactical assessments when the enemy deliberately chooses suboptimal strategies. Kim Woo-jin, watching the battle unfold from his command position, began to understand what was happening. The aliens were so advanced, so mathematically perfect in their approach to warfare, that they had forgotten how to deal with imperfection. They were like master chess players suddenly forced to play a game where the pieces moved randomly. All ships, he broadcast to the human fleet. New standing orders. If it makes tactical sense, don't do it. If it seems stupid but might work, do it twice. If your computer says it's impossible, that's your new target. The orders would have horrified military strategists throughout human history, but they proved devastatingly effective against an enemy who had never learned to expect the unexpected. As the battle raged on, more Zephyrian ships fell victim to human stupidity. Ships that flew backward while shooting forward, fighters that attacked in spirals instead of straight lines, and tactics that violated every principle of efficient warfare. By the time the engagement ended 6 hours later, the humans had lost 37 ships. The Zephyrians had lost 12, the first combat losses in their species' recorded history. As Velthara's fleet withdrew to regroup and recalculate, she faced a disturbing realization. The humans had not won through superior technology or better tactics. They had won by being unpredictably, chaotically, impossibly human, and her computers had no idea how to calculate an effective response to that. The stars burned cold in the void as Captain Kim Woo-jin stared at the emergency transmission crackling through his ship's speakers. The message came from New Sol Station, humanity's furthest mining colony, and the words made his blood freeze. Unknown vessels approaching. Blue energy signatures. They're beautiful and terrible at the same time. Then static. Nothing more. Kim Woo-jin had served in Earth's frontier defense for 15 years. He had fought pirates, dealt with equipment failures in deep space, and survived 3 different alien first contacts. But this felt different. The fear in that colonist's voice carried something he had never heard before. The sound of someone seeing their own death approaching in perfect, calculated formation. On Earth, Admiral Lee Suho received the same transmission in the war room beneath Geneva. The holographic display showed their furthest colonies going dark one by one, each disappearing exactly 72 hours after the first sighting of those blue energy signatures. Whatever was out there moved with clockwork precision. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Chen at the communications desk, "we're getting reports from 17 different systems. The pattern is always the same. Blue lights appear, they broadcast something in mathematical sequences, then our colonies stop responding." Li Suho nodded grimly. In his 40 years of military service, he had learned to read between the lines. When colonies stopped responding, it meant one of two things: complete destruction or complete surrender. Either way, humanity was facing something far beyond their experience. 300 light-years away, Battle Archon Velthara stood in the crystalline command center of the Zephyrian flagship Eternal Calculation. Her pale blue skin reflected the soft glow of quantum computers that processed millions of tactical variables every second. To her people, war was not about courage or determination. It was pure science. "Report on the carbon-based species," she commanded, her voice carrying the musical tones of her race. The data flowed directly into her neural implants. Humans used chemical propulsion for their crude vessels. Their weapons fired physical projectiles instead of energy beams. Most amusing of all, their military tactics seemed to have no mathematical foundation whatsoever. They fought with something the Zephyrian computers classified as emotional responses, rather than logical calculations. "Battle probability?" Velthara asked. 99.7% in our favor," responded the ship's artificial intelligence. "Estimated pacification time, 72 standard hours per population center." Velthara allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The Zephyrian Dominion had ruled the galaxy for 2,000 years, through the perfection of warfare. Every battle was fought and won before the first shot was fired. Their crystalline ships moved in formations calculated to maximize energy efficiency. Their weapons fired in patterns designed to eliminate targets with minimal waste. Their victories were as predictable as the laws of physics themselves. The humans would learn, as 47 other species had learned before them. Resistance to the Dominion was not just futile, it was mathematically impossible. Back on Earth, Kim Woo-jin's ship, the Defiant, raced toward the outer colonies at maximum burn. His crew worked frantically to prepare for whatever they might find. Engineer Park Sojin checked and rechecked their weapons systems, knowing that their railguns and missile launchers seemed pitiful compared to the reports they were receiving. "Captain," called Dr. Yoon Hae-jin from the sensor station, "I'm reading something strange. The attack patterns from the destroyed colonies, they're too perfect. Every strike hit exactly where it would cause maximum damage with minimum energy expenditure." Kim Woo-jin frowned. "What do you mean, too perfect?" "I mean, they didn't just defeat our defenses, they solved them like math problems. Look at this." She brought up a holographic display showing the remains of Titan Base. Every shot placed precisely where our shields were weakest. Every attack timed to exploit our reload cycles. It's like they ran our entire defense system through a computer and calculated the perfect way to destroy it. The implications sent a chill through the bridge crew. They were not facing an enemy who would try to defeat them. They were facing an enemy who had already calculated their defeat. On the Zephyrian flagship, Velthara reviewed the latest intelligence reports with growing confidence. The humans had mobilized their entire military, but the numbers were laughable. Their largest ships were barely a tenth the size of a Zephyrian frigate. Their most powerful weapons could not penetrate even basic energy shields. Most telling of all, their battle formations showed no mathematical optimization whatsoever. "They fight like barbarians," observed her tactical advisor, Sub-Archon Kexmar. "Random movements, inefficient weapon placements, emotional decision-making. Their defeat will require minimal resources." Velthara nodded in agreement. The Dominion's war doctrine was based on perfection through calculation. Every angle of attack, every energy expenditure, every tactical decision was optimized for maximum efficiency. In 2 millennia of conquest, they had never encountered an enemy who could match their mathematical superiority. The human fleet approaching them consisted of 120 primitive vessels. Her own force numbered 180 ships, each one a masterpiece of engineering and tactical design. The outcome was so certain that her computers had already begun calculating resource allocation for the occupation phase. As Kim Woo-jin's ship dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima system, he saw them for the first time. The Zephyrian fleet hung in perfect geometric formation, their crystalline hulls catching and reflecting starlight in patterns that seemed almost artistic. Each ship pulsed with blue energy, and their movements were so coordinated they seemed like a single organism rather than individual vessels. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Shin Tai-min from the pilot's seat. "They're beautiful. Beautiful things can kill you just as dead as ugly ones," Kim Woo-jin replied, but he understood what his pilot meant. There was something hypnotic about the alien formation, something that spoke of intelligence far beyond human understanding. The communication system crackled to life, but instead of words, mathematical equations flowed across their screens, prime numbers, geometric progressions, quantum formulas, all building toward what their computer translated as an ultimatum. "They're giving us a choice," reported Communications Officer Lieutenant Bae Min-ji. "Surrender and be incorporated into their empire, or be eliminated as an inefficient variable." Kim Woo-jin looked at his crew. They were afraid, he could see it in their eyes. But beneath the fear he saw something else. The same stubborn defiance that had carried humanity from caves to stars. The same refusal to accept defeat that had won them 1,000 impossible victories throughout their history. "Send a response," he said quietly. "What should I tell them, sir?" Kim Woo-jin smiled grimly. "Tell them we choose door number 3. As his words were transmitted toward the perfect alien formation, he had no idea that he had just introduced a concept that would shake the mathematical foundations of the galaxy's greatest empire. The possibility that there might be solutions they had never calculated.